Walter, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. How about Eileen? Can you hear us, Eileen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Christina?
I told my.
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay. Hey, Froggy.
So it is February 8th and calling the meeting to order. Do not need to seat any alternates, and do we have anybody here for present to speak? Nobody. Okay, so tonight we're doing budget request presentations from emergency services. And the first one we'll be hearing is emergency management director stipend, being done by Stu Cobb.
I'm Stuart Cobb, Chief Willington. Budget's actually a tiny bit less than last year. It continues the $6,000 a year stipend, but I get half of which is reimbursed eventually through a federal emergency management performance grant that comes through the state. And the other 1,000 is for one half of the maintenance on the generator hall school. The cost for that is split between the E&D budget and the board of that.
I can barely hear you. What did you say about the state part of the stipend?
So the 6,000 is the total amount of pay, 3,000 comes back. And the reason I say eventually, state being what the state does, it's federal money administered by the state, and it can take 1 to 2 years to get the money back. But eventually they do pay half of that, so that cost is $3,000. Then the $1,000 is for the generator hall school for one half of the maintenance.
That's it.
That's it.
Any questions for Stu?
Yeah, I had a question. Are you guys adding, an assistant emergency services manager with a stipend?
Not that I know of.
You're not?
No.
Okay,
Should I?
We're maybe considering it. We don't know. We're
Okay.
still way up in the air right now.
okay. Is that when comes about, will be posted or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I mean,
We'll let you know.
posted as far as an opening?
Yeah.
Since it's new, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Christina? No, well,
No, I'm good.
all right, thanks, Stu. All right, so the next one is the the fire marshal, being presented by Trevor Gannick.
Good evening, I'm Trevor Gantic, the fire marshal. My budget remains flat for this fiscal year. I do always ask to be considered for a raise in line with the contractual employees in the town. Deputy stipend remains the same, as well as fire marshal expenses.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for Trevor?
I had a couple, I just wondered, when did your appointment start?
June of 22.
June of 20. I just wondered if you had like, thank you for providing this sort of job outline of the marshal's duties. But do you have any kind of an annual report or something that you file that shows, what your actions in town have been?
Yes, I believe I am behind on that. I owe that to Donna.
Okay,
Usually she requests that, and I missed the request this year.
would we be able to see that at some point? I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Okay.
You see that, I'll share it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And when you were directly appointed, right, there was no posting of the fire marshal opening either, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Nice. Anybody else have any questions for Trevor? All right, so next on the sheet is ambulance payroll, which will be presented by Chief Alex Moore.
Just a question, because the payroll seems to always be do we want to do the fire department budgets first and then we'll do payroll? Payroll seems to always be the sticking topic, so I didn't know if we want to. It's up to you guys. My presentation goes through the fire side first and then ambulance, so either way.
No, we can do that.
Okay.
Okay. So, Willington Fire Department #1, Chief Alex Moore.
All right, just gonna share my screen real quick if you don't mind. It says I'm not able to share it, sorry.
I don't know.
If not, I can just go through it and
I would give you. Let's try this, see now, can you share now? Probably not.
If you click on his.
Got it?
They went off.
Yeah, there it is.
Over your mouse. Over the right one.
Just a little bit more. The right.
let's do it this way, hang on, sorry. There we go. That's all. First, thank you, those that don't know me, my name is Alex Moore, I'm the fire chief for Willington #1. One thing that's different with our budgets this year, and it's for us and Willington Hill, is we had finally have a standardized fire department line items. So all of our line items line up identical for each department. Before, each category was different between each agency. Through the efficiency committee, we were able to line our budgets so that they are all within the same categories. Anybody else? I quickly just wanted to, and I sent it out in the presentation, that everybody got, just go over, everybody asks, usually about our call volume. So the last year, so 22-23, we did 225 ALS calls, 357 BLS calls, 57 motor vehicle accident, 320 mutual aid calls, and 187 fire calls for a total of 1,146. For 23-24, so this is from July 1 to today, or as the presentation, so a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, ALS was 157 calls, 196 BLS calls, 32 motor vehicle accidents, 179 mutual aid calls, 100 fire calls. So 564 calls so far for the year, and that's since July 1. Again, this is just a different way to look at it, called by year. This we did from 2018 to 2024. And this just shows the increase in our call volume. We had a little bit of a dip during the beginning of COVID, and then we've spiked right up. So projecting our call volume now, we're looking at to be anywhere from 1,200 to 1,250 by July. Any questions about the call volume?
I had one question. Where are the union calls in this? Are they in the total calls or? Are they
They're in the
mutual?
total, they're in the mutual aid, but we did 58 calls to union last year. Only 30 of those were transported. And out of union, they billed $30,000 and we collected just about $28,000. So just going through our line items really, I'm only gonna really talk about the ones with the bigger increases. Trash removal, building maintenance for both, for the main station at 426 River Road, there is no increase to those. Building maintenance right now for station 13 covers the trailer as well. That is there. Somebody's waiting to get in. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
You wanna let them in?
Not doing anything else.
Building maintenance for station 213, which is the station down at 143 River Road. We did increase that a little bit just because we were using the building all the time. That was, used to be just a substation that would house trucks. Would use it to put somebody there if there was a large storm, we knew something, you know. We needed an extra person. Now that we're staffing it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it is a very old building that needs a little bit of maintenance. Now that we're actually using everything in there, things, you know, we've had to replace some garage door openers or the actual garage door motors because it's running a lot more than it has. Stuff like that. And then telephone, for both stations. Janitorial and pest control, covers, for us, this covers the pest control, at both stations and the camper. And then we get into the electricity for station 13. So we were able to reduce the electricity at the main station, with us not being there except for the camper. The trucks are still plugged in, but we're not, the lights, all the lights aren't on. Things aren't getting run as much. So we were able to reduce the cost there a little bit. But the electricity at station 213 went up a little bit. Heat and propane, again, heat for the main station, we lowered. And for the south station, there's no anticipated increase. We've been okay with that. Building miscellaneous is the expenses that do not fall under our defined items. So the alarm monitoring at the stations, paper goods, trash bags, etc. Moving on to the administrative expenses account, counting and legal fees, we don't use that line item. Computer and hardware, most of this is the copier lease that we have for our office that's here. The insurance, it's in a 13% increase in insurance. Sorry, a 13% increase in insurance by our contractor this year. That's what they're predicting. Physicals, for volunteer members, anybody that's an interior firefighter is required to have a physical that we're required to pay for. So we budget $1,000 for them. Our paid staff, that comes out of, if they go for their, when they go for their physical, that comes out of the paid side. Response software, this is a software we jointly do with Willington Hill Fire Department for our members. When we get a call, it's comes over our phones, all that is fine. And this is our portion of that. Training, no increase. Office supplies, no increase. Good and welfare, no increase. And administrative miscellaneous, there's no change. Day room supplies, this is a new one for us. This is where we're categorizing our bottled water, stuff like that for the members at the station. So we have a contract with Village Springs, they bring us water. So the total administrative increase due to the insurance was $3,000. Equipment maintenance. The equipment maintenance is hose testing, ladder testing, pump test every year on all the apparatus. So there's no increase in that line item. The trucks, engine tank 113, which is a 2017 Spartan, we did increase the budget by 1,000. The truck is no longer on warranty, so we did see a tick of off expense for that this year. Engine tank 213, which is the 1990, same thing. There, we increased it a little bit, and the truck is starting to have a couple of mechanical issues. If anybody looks at the budget sheet that you have, or the staff is looking at under engine tank 213, it shows a very large increase this year, or expense this year of $12,000. We were required, we had to replace all the tires in the rear of the truck, so there's 8 tires in the rear of it. And they were, Stuart, 17 years old. Yeah, well, the tires were 17 years old, they had to be replaced. They would not certify the truck to be run. If we didn't, but they were, how much a tire?
Like $800
$800 a tire, something like that installed. And of course, with trucks, tires not coming off for 17 years old, it broke a stud and cost a lot more to get the stud replaced on it. Yeah, so there, it does show a large increase in expense this year, but well over $5,000 of that is because of tires. Squad 113 is a 2003 International rescue pumper. It has been, or it is the busiest truck, outside of the ambulances. This goes to all motor vehicle accident, house fires, such a runtime. There's no change to that. Service 213, the 2015 Ford F-350, there's no change. Ambulance 513, ambulance 613, ambulance 513 is the one that is up for replacement. That is a F-550. Having the second ambulance has proven very beneficial to not have the amount of mechanical failures that we were having with that truck. That truck is, members that have been on the board of finance for a while. I think 3 years in a row, we were here asking for money because that thing was sucking us dry. It not running as much has helped. We're still just about $5,000 in repairs in it right now. But with the two trucks, we're able to rotate them out. So it runs for 2 months, it sits for 2 months unless something else happens. So there, we left those alone. There's no anticipated increase for those. The mobile data service. This is for iPads and Wi-Fi devices to run our patient care reports. The monitors in the ambulances are required to have internet access because they need to be able to send information to the hospital. If we were to do a 12-lead EKG in the ambulance, we're required, we have to send it to the hospital. We have to have Wi-Fi capability within the trucks to do that. So this covers the cost of that. It also does what they call an MDT, mobile data terminal, in the front of the ambulance and the fire trucks. They give turn-by-turn directions to the scenes and one-way communication back and forth in the dispatch center. So that we can put notes on our calls, they can do the same. So this line item covers that. Protective clothing. So this is the biggest item, our biggest increase within our budget. We had a long discussion about this last night at CIP. And it really is gonna determine on where this is gonna fall. Is it CIP is gonna fall through, let it go on the plan there, or if it's gotta come to the board of finance and go through the budget. We have 4 sets right now that we have to replace. We don't have much of an option on that. It's timed out. They're only good for 10 years. And with the new OSHA standards that are coming, we're gonna have to start putting 2 sets per firefighter. So this is just the start of trying, and this is both departments. Chief Snyder and I work together on this for CIP so that we're both doing the same thing. So it does show a large increase to our turnout gear in our budget this year. If it goes in CIP, and Steph and Christina might be able to answer what their opinions are on that better. We can take it out of the budget, but we need to have it in one or the other.
And right now it's in both.
Right now it's in both, just so that there was.
For your budget, not for the.
Correct, for our budget, we put it in both, just so that we want to have the conversation of where should it be? This has been a constant thing back and forth, since Tyler was chief, but where should it be? We don't really know, it's over $10,000, so Board of Finance has said, let's do capital. The capital says it's a reoccurring event, so let's do it through the budget. So we really need a home for this. It's not going away, and over the next, 5 or 6 years, we're gonna be looking at 4 or 5 sets a year. Just with the way our replacement cycle looks. Christina's waving her hand.
I just wanted to say, I don't really have an opinion either way of where it should be. Other than if it's in the operating budget, we need assurance that it's gonna actually be spent and not used. If you have a budget problem somewhere else, then this money is easy to just say, oh, we will just get that next year. And so that's the only thing. But I do think it probably does belong there since it's an every year thing. Just as long as it gets used.
I agree.
And the impact is is it roughly 10 per department?
10, I'm sorry.
Well, 11,000 per department annually, that would
No,
But
about
that would grow,
22,000,
so about-
about 22,000.
right, like this increase is 8,300,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming you already had.
We had some
protected
already in
bunker here and there, yeah. 8,300.
Yep.
Did I say 1,000?
Yep.
the numbers really,
So we,
really
yeah,
grow?
we do have budget, it was in there last year to get a couple of sets, which we've already purchased. This year. So, and I think we've actually went over in that line item and moved
If
up.
you look at the expense report, the current year, I believe is over 15,000 for 3 sets of gear.
Right. And did you want to just, did you explain a little bit, because it is interesting about, that it can't be shared,
Right. yeah.
everyone's gotta have two,
Fire
You
gear
already
needs to
said
be
that.
sized.
yeah.
They can't share gear. You don't, we don't allow people to take somebody else's gear. It needs to fit properly. Everybody's responsible for their own gear, making sure that it's not ripped or torn or something else. If we have somebody that borrows somebody's set of gear and it got torn or it got contaminated or something like that, and we didn't know, the next person went to go get in it, now they're being contaminated. So everybody's, I apologize, I'm sorry. So it is imperative that they have their own set of gear. And where we're getting to with the second set of gears, especially with the paid personnel, they leave on a call at 5 o'clock in the morning, they have a park fire, they have a house fire. That gear, they're going to what is called a clean cab, clean cabs. You're not even allowed to, we're not even supposed to be putting our gear, once it's used, in the cab of the truck. It's supposed to go in an outside compartment, it's supposed to go in a pickup truck. Somewhere that it's clean air, that the firefighter is not being contaminated any longer than they needed it. As soon as the gear comes back, the person needs to shower, the gear has to be washed, dried. And they have to, they're still working, so they need to have a set of gear to be able to go on the next call if there's one for the 3, 4, or 5, however long it takes to get that gear. We are fortunate, we do have a washer and dryer, but it still takes time. It's probably 2 hours per set to get washed and then dried and, so just washing is to get a set done, because you have to separate.
I'm certain you guys all have experience with
Oh, yeah.
more than one evil call a day.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
backup gear
And
could
it's
be a scenario that
Yeah.
happens within the same shift, the same
absolutely
day.
all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Any other questions regarding the turnout here? Second closing. Uniforms covers t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, job shirts, stuff like that for our volunteer members. Radios and pagers, there's no increase, covers, some outdated, pagers. The dispatch center is actually moving to or adding an 800 system, which in our area benefits us very well with the tone of voice pager. Anybody that's been here for a while knows that we did through ARPA, a big radio, upgrade for fire EMS and public works. It was a joint project between Willington Hill and Willington 1 to outfit every piece of apparatus with the same radio, programmed the same way, ensuring every officer has the exact same portable radio that's programmed the same way. Our trucks now have the same portable radios, so that if I show up and I go to a Willington Hill truck and I need a radio, I can pick it up and know how to use it, and vice versa. So this is stuff to fix that if something was to break, or there's some stuff that was the pagers is another big thing that's coming. Now we're able to use the pagers on that system.
That's one question I did have.
Yep.
Is that okay if I ask? Wouldn't that line go down a little since you just got a big infusion of brand new ones?
So we still have to use our old radio equipment. The dispatch center has not transitioned to the 800 stuff, so we are still having radio issues on the old system. I think we've used, I don't know the number, I have, sorry. Sir, how much have we've spent 4,600 out of that line item already as of,
The pagers are roughly $800 each. And we did not buy any pagers as part of the ARPA purchase when we bought mobile and portable radios. Pagers are,
Okay,
you know,
gotcha.
if you see somebody wearing your belt and if this call goes up, it's beep, 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 you have a call. And the new ones are capable, you can turn over to the operating frequency. So while you're going out to your car, you can listen into what's going on in that call, what equipment is needed, and things like that.
But this is radios and pagers.
radios and pagers. So
We shouldn't have to replace radios for a while, so
we're
that,
hoping to.
so. Well, that's what I was asking, because
Right.
that includes both things. I
Yes.
just wondered,
So it's repair of that as well, so.
yeah.
One of the ambulances needed a repair and the radio just wasn't transmitted, that's where that would come off of it.
Okay,
Fire equipment purchases, that's the equipment on the trucks, hoses, nozzles, saws, etc. Equipment miscellaneous increase 1,450. This is a new line item for us. Willington Hill, I believe, had this previously. The equipment maintenance or miscellaneous, I'm sorry. But that's where gas, and we didn't know what that actually was until it started getting broken out. Sure, it's in that.
Basically, it's consumables, so it's not a capital equipment purchase, it's things like, ethanol-free fuel for the chainsaws, DEF fluid for the trucks, for the emission systems, foam, concentrate for the foam systems in the truck, that sort of thing. They're expenses, but they're, as opposed to fire equipment, is typically a long-term capital item you're buying that lasts, 5 or 10 years. This is just disposable stuff, fluids we need to keep the trucks going.
So the total equipment expense, 88,300, increase of 14,250, with a big chunk of that being about with the turnout gear. Medical and cleaning, slight decrease, it's linen, hazardous waste cleaning for the ambulance. So the sheets that come off the stretcher, stuff like that after a fall, if we need to have, it's gotta go up and clean if we bring it back from the hospital. Medical equipment supplies. It's broken and out of date equipment, if we need to do a new back order, something like that, plus all the medical supplies in the 2 ambulances. So there was a slight decrease, but total medical of 12,000. That is all I have for the fire side of it, and the rest of the presentation I'll do over.
That percentage increase year over year is about 11%.
So it was much lower until I put the fire gear in there. It was only, I wanna say it was 3%, 4% for the increase.
Yes.
Before I put the fire gear. The turnout gear is really a driving increase.
Can I just say something about
Absolutely.
format? I appreciate the sort of, we're all playing nice together, but it's missing the incremental increases, so we all have to like do the math.
Okay.
And then it has no percentages attached to line item increases, which is important for us when we're doing this presentation and coming up with questions. It just, we do math, but times this many lines, it's kind of a pain.
Could you make another one and send it out with those figures?
As long as Donna is willing to help us with that, sure.
Just say no, Donna.
I don't know where the original came from, so. This is what I got from you this
If
year,
if
so-
Donnie can't do it, I can.
Okay,
Oh,
Thank
great.
sort of,
All right.
we'll get it to you. Thank you.
Does anyone on that have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. It's Walter Parcell. Yeah, I don't know much about turnout gear, and I'm not gonna pretend I do, but do you shop around for best price with that stuff, or do you have one
We do, and that's
supplier?
actually- Yeah, and that's actually off the state bid. We go
Okay.
off state bid for it.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. So the
Yeah.
mutual aid agreement, do we have that strictly with union?
As far for ambulance, but no, not just union.
Okay.
It's a,
Well,
what's that? It's a yeah, for with union, it's a PSA. Everyone else is a mutual aid. So we have the Willington Fire Department holds a PSA for the town of Union. So we do the first call up there. It is our lowest out of everywhere else we go, mutual aid.
But do they reciprocate?
They do not.
No,
Okay.
that's,
They do not. That is, they do not have an ambulance. They have a population of 600. They've never had an ambulance. We've always worked well together.
I can background you a little bit on that, because it is a Board of Finance issue, and in 2021, almost 3 years to the day to today, we asked the selectmen to enter into discussions with the first selectman over in Union, because they are about almost exactly a tenth of our population, a tenth of our calls, and they don't contribute anything. The Willington taxpayers basically cover the cost, the three quarters of the cost of running the ambulance falls to the taxpayers. Yes, there is recoverables from the co-pays that go into Fund 17. But the simple math is, we thought, given that the budget at the time was around I think it was 480 or something like 480,000 in payroll. We asked Union to pick up 10%, thinking, tenth of the calls, tenth of the population, that would be a fair sort of buy-in. They've never done it other than they gave us 13,000 of their ARPA money as a one-time sort of good faith effort, but I don't know where we are in
I
discussions.
have an update with it.
Okay,
So with their population of 600 people, they've agreed to 5,000 with escalators. It's not something that they ever budgeted, so it is going to go in their budget to start at 5,000 with escalators every year. They're willing to work with us, but they said this year 5,000 was all that they could do. Because anything over a $5,000 increase in 600 people is a large increase. So they're willing to work with us. That's what we're able to get.
so we should talk about this more during payroll.
And
But with our payroll increasing the way it is, their portion would of course grow from 48. So that would be, what is the math on that? 12 years before they would be even with what we think is a fair amount. I think that there's still there's still room for
I understand. that.
negotiation. I know. And I know it's not like I'm being like, trying not to be a bean counter, but I am putting it in facts. It was unanimous vote on the Board of Finance when we brought it up and discussed it. Jeff, Christina, Mike McCoo will remember. It's one of those things where the fire department agreed to go into a primary service area agreement, which is a state designation, that they are on tap to be first responders to all calls in the town of Union. The town,
For medical.
for medical, I'm sorry, with the ambulance. And so the town basically was committed to this by that designation. But I don't think the Board of Finance had ever been really drawn into that circle.
That's not
And
true.
it's an ongoing thing. I know that, I understand,
It's not
and I
true.
understand mutual aid.
What you said isn't true.
What's not true,
Prior to
Tyler?
us accepting the PSA in the town of Union many years ago, the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen were briefed by me prior to executing that PSA. And the only questions that were asked of me at the time was how many calls do you think you're gonna do? How much money do you think you're gonna be able to collect up there to boost Fund 17? At the time, it was a figure of, I think, 10 or 12. Now it's almost $30,000 a year. So there was buy-in by all the entities. I don't want the impression.
Okay, but you know what happened?
That the fire department decided on their own to go do this.
Okay.
Everybody was consulted before this decision was made.
Okay, whatever, but the world of the ambulance and its cost has spiraled in recent years. You can see the growth financially. That's been, a heavy player in our budget picture, to the point where it's more and more unsustainable for the taxpayers in Willington. We're just looking for a fair play solution with this one obligation. So it's
understand that. I
not,
think your public
even in mutual aid, and we've talked about this too, and in fact, I wouldn't mind seeing your chart again, Alex, about what the mutual aid balance is between towns, because in the scheme of things, it's supposed to be somewhat 50-50. I understand that can take a long time to play out that way, but when you last did charts for us,
So. and I
it
believe
was, excuse me, it was 7-1 calls to Tallinn. It
Mhm.
was something like 5-1 calls to Stafford.
Right.
There was no town around us that had more calls here or even calls here.
Just you know.
Just Yukon, which is not a town, it's a state entity that we all pay taxes into.
I understand, but.
So it's very
also set up
different.
That way for a purpose.
What do you mean?
So UConn is set up to come here on purpose.
Right, but I'm
I'll-
just saying, in the mutual aid game, which
Correct.
is, everybody understands it's the right thing to do, and you've gotta do it, even if the numbers are out of balance.
Yep.
But they're strongly out of balance, and I know
don't
that.
dis- I
That
don't
Pete
disagree.
like mentioned, on one of the recent holidays, he, because we've been talking about this a long time. Tallinn does not do a graveyard shift on its ambulance and it does not work holidays and we cover all the calls overnight and holidays for Tallinn. And so I think I do think it's worth I'm keeping it alive. I'm sorry to co-opt it because I think it's a fairness issue to the taxpayer in Willington. And we do have a declining population. In the last census, we went from 6,000 to 5,500.
Well, wouldn't you also agree that the taxpayer contribution to the public works, the Board of Education, the general government budget has increased exponentially over the last 10 to 15 years as well? Because this agency that utilizes taxpayer money to perform a municipal function is the only agency in the town of Willington that actually contributes money back in the form of Fund 17.
Right,
So
but
it's
it's
a
still
couple
a fourth
$100,000
of
a
the
year.
overall cost.
Excuse me?
So it contributes money back,
Yeah.
but that's a fourth of the overall cost.
And I think,
The other 3/4 of the increase goes to the taxpayers.
and I
That's
think
why the math
it's
doesn't work.
important for some of the newer folks around the Board of Finance perhaps to,
The
to,
school budget last year went up less than 1% year over year.
you should also know that since when we first started doing the ambulance billing or insurance collection for transport, which down at what, 20 years plus now?
2001.
2001, so it's longer. Unlike every other municipality that not only in the county, but I would challenge in Eastern Connecticut. Generally speaking, except for I think a very few exceptions, the taxpayers have not had to pay for the ambulance or a fire truck during that time. All of those purchases and leases have been paid by the insurance recovery fund, which is the money that's collected for ambulance. So I think
The Fund 17.
that's very important.
Yes, which is a good thing that you're, for later in the discussion, because one of your budget scenarios asks for doubling the amount to go to the operating budget. So, Fund 17 is primarily for replacing apparatus.
That's not true.
Okay.
Let's
I'm sorry,
Read the contract, that's not true.
I apologize to the chair. I know too much.
That's the problem.
All right, any more questions? So we will now move on to Willington Fire Department number one. No, we're already there. Yeah, Willington Hill Fire Department, Chief Tom Snyder. I thought you wanted to do that last.
It's gonna be a lot of detail, a lot of time for that, so if we agree.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Well, thank Alex for covering all the explanations on these line items, what they are and stuff like that. It'll save me a lot of time. I don't know if you got my copy or if you just got Donna's, combined copy. I did have explanations on mine as to the increases and decreases in the percent and the dollar amount. I don't know if the notes were in there included with it.
Yeah.
Okay, there. I mean, really, the increase in my budget's a $2,800 increase, basically. And most of that is because we're going to put in a security key fob system into the 25 Old Farmers Road building. Currently, there's no security system there. There's cameras that we installed with money from rental income. And that won't cover the key fob system completely. So there's a slight increase in that line item, which is the building maintenance for 25 Old Farms Road. And it's a one-time charge, one-time fee to put that key fob system in there. So basically without that increase in that line item, our budget would be a wash. So that's the first kind of discrepancy in the budget. There's price increase for telephone, slight one. And then we can just move down the line, everything stays the same, everything's equal across the board. Except for heat and propane, we were able to reduce that at 25 Old Farms. Because the use wasn't what we anticipated, so there's a slight reduction in the heat and propane over there. And also miscellaneous building, we were able to reduce that line item as well. For a total building expense increase of $850, but again, that includes the key fob system at one-time price. Any questions on the first section here, the building? I'm kind of going through it quick because again, Alex kind of explained most of what they are.
That's okay, we can continue.
Okay, yeah.
And then, moving down the line, the administrative expenses section. There was an increase in the computer and hardware software because we are incorporating a, inventory system. Which basically you assign a scan tag to all the equipment in the firehouse, whether it's a fire truck, medical bag, stuff like that, so that we can keep an accurate and more efficient inventory of what's being used, what is being done, truck checks, things like that. What's put into the item, whether it's repairs for the truck, things like that. So there is an increase in that line item. I apologize, I did not put the difference in that line item. I didn't do the math on that one line item. But it's about a $2,500 increase in that line. And it's again, it's for that system. It's an annual fee that we have to pay to run this system, and it's a subscription type thing. Insurance is just an obvious increase. We shopped the insurances, and it was this year there is an increase, slight increase in the insurance. Going down, we did reduce the recruitment and retention line item. Rest stay the same. There's a slight in the office supplies. That's a basic. That's a inflation item. And again, it's a $600 increase. I didn't do the math on that one. So again, that's mostly due to inflation, the cost of all the supplies that it's costing us to run paper and all that stuff. The administration with a slight reduction, and moving down to the administrative expenses total was a $3,000 increase. And again, mostly for that inventory system, which I think in the long run will save money because we'll be able to get a real accurate accounting of what's being used again and what we have in inventory and what's needs for repairs, things like that. Moving down the line, there is a note there. We are going to keep the equipment maintenance even. But there is a note there for a gas meter contract. We've been having a lot of issues with our gas meters. We have 3 of them. And so it's been costing us a lot of money. Mansfield has a system that they use that basically leases the gas meters now. And it goes into, like, if there's a problem with one, they take it back, they fix it and give you another one, that kind of thing. And it seems like the cost will save some money, but this is the first time we're trying this contract. So that we can, I think it's gonna save us money in the long run, but we won't be able to tell that just yet until we have it for probably a year. Moving on, vehicle maintenance, basically everything staying the same. There's a slight increase in forestry 149. Some of the components in that truck are getting old and need to be replaced, and it's a very expensive electronics that run that truck, so there's a slight increase of 500. Moving down the line, vehicle maintenance service 149. The new vehicle that was replaced is going into service, so hopefully for a couple of years, I reduced that line item by $2,000. It's a brand new vehicle, brand new SUV, so I think the only thing that should be done is maintenance, brakes, oil changes, things like that, so I did reduce that line item. And again, moving down, the addition of iPads in the vehicles, had a slight increase in the mobile data service. Again, we added a couple of our one iPad in there into our vehicles to use on the road. And you can see a slight reduction in radios and pagers. We did buy some, so we're in good shape for pagers. Like Stuart said, it was pagers are very expensive. They're about $800 a piece. And we just did buy a couple of them this past budget season, so we're in good shape with those, so we could make a slight reduction there. Miscellaneous equipment, the inflation went up a couple $100 on that line for a reduction of the equipment expenses of $1,040. Last two things are even, medical cleaning and medical equipment supplies are staying even. And again, that brings the increase to $2,810 for a total of $149,560 is the request. And again, going back to the key fob system, it will make it a wash in the coming year, because that will have to be up there, that increase in the, on the third line item, building maintenance for 25 Old Farms Road, so. Essentially, the budget's a wash, for this year.
So I've just got one question, and this because I'm new and I just don't know about this. So the church and the house that were bought, is that under your control or the control of the town?
That's under our control.
It's under your control. Okay, so my understanding is that the house over there, it's rented out.
Yes,
So you're collecting revenue from that. Do
correct.
you have any other sources of revenue that you take in?
Minor sources, chicken barbecue, Easter egg hunt, that kind of thing.
Alright, so do you think that you could record all of the revenue that you take in and send that to us?
Absolutely, yeah.
That'd be great, thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
Is that part of your,
Yeah, I mean, if you want the numbers now.
Well, no, if you could just send it,
Just send.
yeah, that way I
Okay,
can
sure.
spread it around, we have it documented.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
is that detailed in your 990? Or is that just something that you can, that you filed, does your 990 have that information?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see it online too, under the state.
Yeah, Jeremy keeps a list of exactly what comes in and what the money goes towards, the rental income for the house. From day one has always gone, almost all of it back into the property with furnace repairs, things like the camera system for the other building. It's all going back into the property, so there's nothing that's, well, not nothing, but there's, it keeps the demand for more money to maintain those properties lower than it should.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but to date, since we've started collecting rent, we're actually the deficit, we've spent more money than we've actually taken in from the rent back into those buildings. And that's money we haven't had to ask for, so.
Yeah, so can we have like a
Yeah.
printout of all your
Yeah, you get it all
expenses
broken
over
down,
there,
sure.
the revenue being brought in?
Certainly,
Right, great, thanks a lot.
no worries.
Could I just ask a question about the medical cleaning and then the supplies and stuff?
Yep.
So that's like 7,000 less, is that because Willington wanted the machine? You don't have, I mean, I don't see anything under medical cleaning that's like bunker gear cleaning, right?
No, that's.
That's something
linens and stuff.
else.
We don't do linens.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
why I said zero, that's
Okay.
mostly ambulance.
that has to do with the
If
staff.
we
Okay,
have to
never
send
mind.
a piece of gear out for a decon, that's like super rare. To the point of like every couple of years, we might have a piece. There's really no point in wasting money on a line item that we're not gonna use.
Thank you.
Years, stuff like that would be under equipment maintenance.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Online? All right, so we go back to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ambulance payroll, Chief Alex Morris. Chief Moore?
Yep, I'm just trying to get back up to.
Yeah.
All right, annual payroll budget overview. Everybody has the annual budget in front of you?
Yeah.
So just as a quick overview, we employ 4 full-time employees, who work rotating schedules, 11 per diem or part-time employees. The contract negotiations are starting soon. We did reach out to Mr. Waller, about getting a representative from the Board of Finance to sit on that. The wage increase in here is strictly an estimate. I went off of last year's increase, just so that I can have a number. I don't know what it's going to be because we're going into negotiations. Our negotiations usually go very quickly. I think we had 2 sessions the last time, so it's not a long drawn out thing, but we're hoping to have that soon. So last year we did discuss the administrative position. We did put this back in. It is a 10-hour-a-week position. Plans, coordinates, supervises, and evaluates the fire and EMS operations for Willington Fire Department #1. Ensures the department training program meets the needs of the department and the town. Establishes the policies and procedures of safe operation of fire and EMS. Works with the elected appointed officials, local fire EMS officials, community and business representatives, and the public on all aspects of the department activities. And ensures departments is compliant with local, state, and federal guidelines. So this was really put in, We employ almost or over 15 employees, or 15 employees. Public Works has 5 with a full-time director. Me as a volunteer position as the fire chief, I manage a full-time department. This is so that I can actually be there 10 hours a week with the guys managing hours. It's not like I'm coming in for 10 hours a day. It's split up between, it would be split up between the week. To ensure one, that stuff that they're supposed to be getting done is done, the training is being done, the trucks. And so forth. Last fiscal year, Fund 17 had so I was talking about this before. With the second ambulance increase in call volume, we've had an 81,000, Donna's numbers that she was able to give us. There was an $81,000 unanticipated revenue increase to Fund 17. The majority of that is because of having the second ambulance, but our call volume is also up. We did check with the billing company, I talked to Donna earlier. From October to October, if we need a 3-month window, we're at $100,000. About $100,000 unanticipated, from where we were. So every year we're looking at ways to try to shave off, or where can we save money to not have a huge impact on the budget every year. Our recommendation is to use $40,000 off of Fund 17 of that unanticipated revenue that we were not expecting. And it would be about a 1.86% increase. The annual budget. This would get the administrator plus give us a little room, because I don't know what contract negotiations are gonna put in. That's all I have.
I was wondering if you could just do us one favor.
Yeah.
Just wondering if you can break out mutual aid by town, add those numbers to the presentation or spreadsheet and resend it to us.
Yeah, we have that.
Oh, you do have
Yeah,
that?
it's easy to send, we can get that over.
Okay, great.
And it's no secret, and our biggest, mutual aid that we go to is the town of Tallinn. Stafford is the second, Tallinn, they're both different dynamics. Stafford, we used to go to a lot more, but now that they've hired 24/7 staff, we go their second or third call if they can't get a crew. Knock on wood, they've been pretty good about getting a second truck out. And they've helped us. Their call volume into us has been a little higher than it was. We strictly concentrate on Yukon coming into town for more than almost 3/4 of the town if we're out on another call because of their availability. They have 2 to 3 trucks available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if they have a larger event, they have 4 or 5 trucks available. And they've been a great mutual aid partner. You know, Stephanie was saying before, it's not a fair share between us and Tallinn or us and Stafford. It's designed that way to try to get somebody here. If we're not available, to get somebody here quicker. Stafford, if they're out, it's a second call. They're waiting 10 minutes to get a second ambulance on the air. At night, Tallinn is waiting up to 5-10 minutes to get a truck on the air. That's a delay coming in here if we're out. So Yukon is designed to come in here a lot quicker. It gets somebody to a patient's house faster. That's why it's set up the way it is, and that's why the numbers look so skewed. They're not paying back. It's our decision of how we did it. To try to get a resident the help they need quicker than 1 for 1.
So you're saying Yukon doesn't answer calls in Tallinn and?
They go to Tallinn as a third or fourth, depending on where it is. A lot of places it's because of proximity. For us, it's quick. They come down 3:20 or 32 for Yukon. Their times are better than Tallinn. Depending on the time of day, if the Tallinn ambulance is coming out of their station on Crystal Lake Road, it's a 10 to 12 minute ride just to get to town. Yukon, it's a quick shot right up 320 or right up 32, depending on where the call is.
Any other questions? Any questions online? Christina?
Well, I just want to point out that Fund 17 used to be a bigger source of revenue. And it's good to see it's coming back to what it was, but it was low before. And we've been using it to offset the payroll every single year for the last 5 years. Some years, a lot, like I think $60,000 one year. And that is, I think, artificially lowering the ambulance cost to the taxpayers. It's helping us out, but it's also depleting that fund. And when we need to go buy another truck, which there is one on the CIP plan, and I think you're 4 or 5, we want as much money as possible to be in there. So I thought that we were gonna try to wean off of it and stop doing that. And now it sounds we're gonna double it if we do this. So I'm just concerned about that.
Any other questions?
Can I make a quick comment?
Sure.
We only did the 40,000 because it was the unanticipated revenue. We expected, and I don't have the number in front of me, and I apologize. I don't remember, John, if you remember every year, what was the projected? What did we get, we were averaging 213,000, somewhere in that ballpark, that would come into Fund 17 every year. We're up over 300,000. That's why we were comfortable doing using the unanticipated income off of it.
So it went up
We weren't
100,000
projecting-
overnight.
Huh?
Well, because when we were talking about it at CIP, it was around 200 grand.
A year.
Now, no, oh, yeah,
Correct, and now that I have the right.
but now we asked about the balance and it was
Oh,
200,000.
That was off of the July statement, or, the statement that was given to Board of Finance this time last year. Is the 200,000. When we did, the auditors were the ones that caught the increase, that there was an $81,000 uptick that we weren't projecting. So that's why we were looking to use the 40,000. Because it wasn't projected into any of the figures that we had done through the budget last year or coming into this year. So.
Christina's got her hand up.
Christina?
And that's great. But the overall cost of the ambulance is up, what percent?
850,000 is the one that, oh, the ambulance, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
It was
Without those-
with the
without those
administrator, it was a
offsets.
6% increase. Without it is, I don't know what I estimated a 3%.
but that's with this $40,000 being taken out of it, right?
Yeah, and 15 for union, which we've
Well,
already,
I mean,
Which is
10,000 less.
we need
So
to look at
it's-
it like, how much does this service cost? Not how much are we using taxpayer dollars to cover? And the cost of it has gone way up over the years. Just the last
And
few
it's-
years.
I don't disagree with you. It's gone up in every single community everywhere.
But I guess what I would like to say about that, to add on to it, is if we could see the actual numbers on your 2 scenarios with the administrative job
Sure.
and without the offsets, because you've got 35,000 offset for the one that has a 3.79
Yep.
increase.
I,
And that's without the administrative job, and then the other one's is 6.25%. But that offset is 55,000, 40 from the Fund 17, 15 from the town of Union. We know 10 of that's not coming in, and the 40,000 we'd rather pull away from, because now we have a truck replacement on the 5-year plan. In addition, we have huge capital challenges for both departments. I don't think it's a time to add staff, guys. I mean, that's just me. I'm not speaking for the whole board. I'm saying that's my opinion. And also, these administrative things, don't you kind of do them in downtime while you're working the ambulance staff?
9 times out of 10, no.
Mhm.
Most of the time I'm here, or if I'm up here at the town office building, is volunteer.
Well, my other point about it is that it's setting a precedent for you as a volunteer chief and the other department having a volunteer chief who's unpaid
At that
for
point-
administrative work, which they do.
At that point, if
in
that went through, I would
huge
not be a
amounts.
volunteer chief.
Right,
Maybe
I
it's
know you
salary.
wouldn't, but my point is, it's starting a trend that sort of begs the question, should the chiefs and the administrators at the other station then come forward and ask for pay? And I
I-
think that's legitimate to ask,
I don't disagree with you,
yeah.
but other than Stafford, who's looking at the exact same thing, I am the only fire chief outside of the unions that is not getting compensated for the fire chief position. Tom and I'm sorry, Tom, I didn't mean to exclude you from that.
Okay, I understand,
Yep.
I'm just pointing it out, especially in a year where there's monstrous capital and the
Yep.
bunker gear thing, and, you know, a lot of things, I don't know that it's great timing to talk about expanding
The
payroll.
only reason it did come back this year was, and I believe it was you that said it last year, bring it back next year. Let's talk more about it. That's
Who
why it's
knew?
in there.
Who knew that your
I
whole
agree with
department was not?
But you also said you wanted to have a further conversation about it,
Right,
so that's why it's here.
but can you isolate what the real impact is without the offsets?
Yep.
For both scenarios, if that's okay, Bruce, if we do that?
Well,
I just want to make a comment. I'm just looking forward to like a year from now without like, 40 grand available from this Fund 17 and the potential, increases due to the contract and everything, what this is going to look like and how high. Like, I agree with Steph, it's artificial without looking at it, without these offsets added in.
Okay.
Could I just ask you, you guys provided some payroll information last year, but it was too late to share with the board. Can you repeat that detail so the board understands the payroll underpinning and what exactly, why it's going up and what exactly
Trying
that
to
pays
remember
for?
exactly what that is, but sure.
I can send you what
If you don't mind,
sent,
send it back so that I know what we gave you.
or Donna may have it, but yeah.
I'm sure.
If you could update those numbers, that would be really helpful. It's sort of, it lays out that when you're running a 24/7 operation.
Yeah.
You do have quite a bit of OT and things that enter into that cost, so. I just think everyone would understand better what we're looking at and why it is kind of spiraling and why we're bringing up mutual aid questions and other things, so. I was wondering, have you guys been, when was your last audit? Of the whole,
Finance?
corporation?
It's ongoing currently. So all of the 990s are done. So you, Ron, I'll let you.
yeah, no, we're just waiting for the auditor to finish. I sent him an email about 3 weeks ago, and said they're busy, and as soon as they're done, they'll finish our stuff up, so they've got everything.
All of the 990s are done.
They're all done.
Okay.
So
He had some questions about some things that we need to sit down and talk to them about, so we're just waiting for them to say, hey, so I reached out to them.
Thanks.
they've had everything for well over a year.
The Board of, yeah, and then you start talking to the IRS, so just for those who aren't caught up on this and for new people. It's been 15 years since you guys have filed a 990. And your C3, your nonprofit status was revoked in 2010, officially 2011. It's on the website. There's no 990s on file for all that time. So as the Board of Finance, your financials are pretty opaque with us. We don't know what other funds you have. We don't really
That's
know.
not true. We have given you every.
Well,
we've
Fund
given-
17, but I don't
No,
know
no,
about
we have
any,
given breakdown of everything to the Board of Finance.
for the, like, the tower lease and all the
Absolutely.
off
We have,
budget.
we have been very open and given
Every
that
year.
every year.
I don't know
And
that
that
I've
was
seen a
given last year.
spreadsheet on that, but, okay. But at any rate, we need to update the payroll detail, but last year was the first year we got it.
Okay.
It was the first year and it was too late to really, have the board see it.
Okay.
So, I'm just saying, especially heading into big capital asks of the town, if the town is sort of an investor in that, it needs to see that things are right with the IRS. And we brought it up 3 years ago, we brought it up ever since. And I know that seems like, I know it's a hassle to catch up for that many years, but it is a lot of years where You know,
I don't
it's just a
disagree
situation that
with
isn't good, it's gonna be hard to move ahead, and yet the pressure is on to do things faster right now because of the situation Station 13 is in particular. So, so I'm being the bad guy to educate people in the room and remind you that now we've come to this push come to shove thing. So,
Anything else?
no.
Any other questions? All right, that is it for the budget presentations for this evening. Under correspondence, I just have one thing to say. So I was contacted by the chief regarding the union negotiations for the fire department. And we've got two people who are interested in doing that. The only thing that they're requesting is that those hearings and or meetings be held in the evening. Because everybody works.
Okay, we have not set the schedule.
I know you haven't, Jeff, but I just had wanted to say that it'd be easier for everybody if they were held in the evening.
We will do our best. I know that because they have a union representative that is there, it's usually done during the day. But we will ask.
Appreciate it. All right, so we have anything else under present to speak?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, I wanted to, read something regarding Fund 17, I think it's important. And to be honest with you, I don't mean to be, transmitting, but I don't know how many, there's a lot of new members of the Board of Finance. Is everyone aware that there's actually a contract, executed contract between the two fire departments in the town of Willington to provide services? That was actually executed back in, I think 2000, or what year was that around? I don't remember. So the one that I'm referencing that I.
You mean the agreement with,
Two
with,
thousand.
when you guys changed your status, you mean that agreement?
No,
With both fire departments at the same time?
Both fire departments, many years ago, entered into negotiations with the town of Willington to provide services, because both fire departments are private corporations. They're not municipal fire departments, so at the time it was felt that it was important that we had these agreements, so everyone knew exactly who was doing what. And one of the things that I remember during this, I was part of drafting this agreement, and back then, Jeff, you might remember, it was me, Patton, Lazowski, Ron, were involved in drafting this. Dick Claus was there. So, and I would urge everyone to get your hands on a copy of the agreement, because some of the things that we talk about, over the last 2, 3, 4 years, that everyone seems to be hazy on is actually very well documented in the contract. And the contract actually automatically renews every 5 years unless there's what I call divine intervention on either part to modify the contract. So it's actually still in play today. But anyway, referencing emergency Fund 17, Emergency Services Equipment Reserve Fund. Over the years, Christina is absolutely on point. Over the years, there's been money that's been taken out. Some years you skipped it, some years was heavy, some was light to offset the payroll increases. And one of the things before I read this is also, we've had paid staff for years. I think it's our 56th year of having paid staff for that ambulance. 1967 or 68, there was just, it was recognized back then that there was a problem with staffing the ambulance. So, we've had it for a very long time. So in the contract, I'll skip the funds, emergency service equipment reserve fund will be allocated for emergency services only. At the time, we were concerned about, folks taking that money by the dump truck or something. So we said, listen, it needs to go to both departments for expenditures, for capital expenditures. Expenditure priorities are as follows. Priority 1, replacement of the ambulance approximately 4 to 6 years based on the purchase date and the current ambulance at the time of this contract execution. Priority 2, associated ambulance costs such as collection agency fees, maintenance repairs of the ambulance, any other services related to expenses essential to the operations of the ambulance, which includes labor costs for the paid ambulance personnel. Priority 3, purchase of emergency services equipment, i.e. fire trucks for either department or emergency services operating expenses. So a lot of these things that we talk about over the years, it's here, it's in a document that unfortunately many people forget about, except Old parts like me and Ron.
Well, that's the problem. Things get.
Absolutely.
Times go,
That's why.
time goes on, and you have to.
Yeah,
refresh yourself.
there are documents out there. I mean, and this one is, I think, is very important, not only for us, but for both departments. It's out there, it was executed, it's enforced, it's automatically renewable every 5 years. It has been modified, at least not while I was chief, Alex, it hasn't been modified, but it's enforced today.
So I'm sorry, one real quick question. So it is specific to ambulance costs?
No.
Ambulance?
No, that was a
personnel?
section, that was a section.
Okay,
of it.
all right.
It's a
thank you.
12, 13 page document.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll get my hands on it.
yeah, please. And if anybody needs it, I'd be more than happy to email it to you, but it should be somewhere in the town. I can email it to the chair. You want to distribute it, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I'd be happy to send it to you.
Two key things that happened though, that
Thank
you
you.
could say more about, Tyler, if you want, about the history though. Cause you entered into the other agreement that was signed with the town in 2009,
What do you think?
2010, when you guys changed your organization of what you were, when you separated off. When you went with when you guys went with a different union
I don't know.
and all that.
There's
Well,
no-
I have it on my
there's no-
desktop,
there's
I'll
no
go
other
find
step.
it.
There's no other
It's an agreement. and it's from-
You talking about the paper contract?
I think Christina,
Me and Christina.
let Christina take,
I'm looking at it right now, Tyler. It was in 2011. And basically it was just a rewrite of the previous one. But, yeah, Ron signed it. I signed it. And it's
The emergency
16,
services agreement?
yeah, but you said 2000, so I thought,
The one
Okay.
that I'm referencing, that section of Fund 17 was from 2000.
okay,
yeah,
that's why I was confused.
and that is what it says in the 2011 version too. So just reading it.
And the other thing that changed is you guys doubled the ambulance staff a few years ago.
No,
You went from 2 full-timers to.
We went from, they
Yes.
went to 24
Yes.
days.
yeah, we've never, when you say double the staff, we never doubled the coverage. We've had.
However you want to cut it, it went up in a big way. And that's when it
There
started.
was a
climbing.
dramatic increase when we went from covering 10 hours a day, 24,
Yeah.
12 hours a day to 24.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct. Because you couldn't get.
That's at
volunteers to
least
take the ambulance.
by my math.
But it's,
It may be faulty, but
I think Tom's gonna agree. No volunteer wants to run an ambulance.
Yeah.
They don't wanna go on an ambulance call.
understand.
That's
Understand.
really the conundrum. It's not just here, it's everywhere. Everybody's having issues, but the fact of the matter is when you're an ambulance service that is running over 1,000 calls a year, you're not gonna get volunteers that run 3-4 times a day on ambulance calls. And
I
again,
know.
It goes back to way back when when these guys run, saw it way back then, and listen, this is gonna be a problem. And that's kind of where we are. There's only, throughout our entire region, there's only, I think, 3 that I can think of off the top of my head that do not, municipalities that do not have paid ambulance or paid firefighters. It's just, it's the way it is.
Oh, no, I understand that they're paid, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of them that don't run 24/7.
Lots of relative term, but okay. Sure.
Colin doesn't.
Excuse me?
Colin doesn't.
That's one. Well,
Well, I don't disagree with you, but
everybody
everybody else
else
sees
is.
a problem.
I'll find
with
out.
not running 24/7.
Sorry.
So it's a necessary service, and I know people don't like to pay for it, and it gets expensive, but it's also an expectation when you live in a town, you're getting the ambulance in a timely manner. So it's however you wanna look at it.
One quick question about that Fund 17.
Yes, sir.
It was. You said basically in perpetuity, we're
Yeah.
paying, the Fund 17 is gonna be used to update the trucks
For those priorities.
and all that.
Yes, sir.
When that was originally written,
Mhm.
how many trucks did we have and what were the associated costs with that? Has it gone up since then because we now have more vehicles?
The only monetary use of that fund for trucks is a purchase or paying leases. From a number of apparatus perspective, you mean? Aside of adding the ambulance, I don't think that we've added numbers to the fleet, have we?
No, the trucks numbers would stay the same, but of course, the cost of trucks has gone right over the years.
Yeah,
We've added one ambulance that was. paid
Yeah,
through ARPA.
that's it, all you have.
As far as the overall numbers. of
okay. I just
both
wasn't sure
departments.
because I know we have 2 ambulances
Yep.
now, but I didn't know. if
So we
there
did
were
purchase,
more
we did purchase the second ambulance, through ARPA. And that's a a big contributor of why we had the unanticipated increase to Fund 17.
We actually dropped the truck.
Yeah.
Back in the nineties, we used to have a tanker. And we looked at replacing it, and there wasn't that much need for it, so we just took it out of service and we had one less truck.
Oh, I think that we had the ladder truck, we covered it.
Ladder truck.
We actually decreased our fleet.
Okay,
Well,
I was just, you bought the ladder truck, then you got rid of it, so that's a wash.
He asked me what I thought was the ladder truck.
No, I was just looking for, I wasn't like trying to.
No, please. And if anybody ever has any questions, I'll email the agreement out. I'll go ask Christina, do you have it? Via email?
Yeah, I do. I
Okay.
just found it. Yep.
All right, so either one of us will email it out, and if you guys have any
Yeah.
questions, by all means, reach out to Alex or Ron. I mean, we'd love to have you down for a conversation or.
There's just some history on the insurance recovery program, which funds Fund 17. That started probably about 1992. I became chief in 93. It's like, wow, we got this money coming in, what are we gonna do with it? Well, initially, I used it to purchase an ambulance. We bought an international ambulance, paid cash for it, never came to the towns, we put it in service, we had money coming in, we offset payroll. At that time, we had two people. I think, yeah. So then, the chief, Tyler's administration, we felt it would be a good idea to have the money go to the town, with the town administer, and Fund 17 was set up from there, so. So this insurance coverage program goes back to the early 90s. So.
Yeah, and there were some golden years where before Medicare changed its payouts, right?
Medicare, Medicaid.
Medicaid, yeah, and that it was really on the upswing, and then it kind of,
We pay cash for ambulance.
no, I understand it's an ever-changing industry for
And
sure.
we're still one of the only, in our area, our region, we're one of the only, entities that has this type of agreement with the town regarding the insurance recovery money. And I get calls a lot, from, not only from fire chiefs, but from town CEOs asking, hey, how'd you do that? And, so we were kind of, back in the day, we were somewhat, the visionaries when it came to that. We weren't in the business of handling hundreds of thousands of dollars in managing. We said, listen, we want to utilize the town for that. That's why the town does our payroll. So the town pays all of our bills. That's why the town acts as our bookkeeping agent, if you will. We're not accountants, we're firefighters and EMTs. So, it's worked out very well over the years, and everyone's benefited
For both departments.
for both departments, absolutely.
And that's the other part that's unheard of, is that, two separate departments share a fund like that.
Yeah, their trucks get bought out of that fund and capital expenditures get bought out of the fund. So, to win.
Thank you. Anything else under present to speak? Yes, Peter.
Good evening, Peter Wiltinchich, 97 Fast Road. Couple of observations and perhaps requests I would make of the Board of Finance after these presentations tonight. Thank you both, fire departments. One would be the way the budgets were presented. I understand it was consolidated for the first time. But last year they were separate. So I don't understand how we would see the increases or decreases. And if that could be addressed. And in that context, there was mention of the Fire Efficiency Committee. And are there any efficiencies is what I'm also thinking about. And I would urge the Board of Finance to think about it. If in fact the two departments are cooperating and sharing a common ledger and using the same services, there should be decreases in operating costs. So I'd be curious beyond just the actual increases and decreases, what efficiencies are being achieved, which I think the town's very interested in, given what you guys have been saying tonight about, and what we heard last night about heavy capital requests. So that would be my first request of you. My second would be, there was mention tonight of the ARPA funds and how those were utilized to purchase capital equipment, radios and communications devices. So you're often bombarded by every town department and agency for capital requests. And frequently the complaint is that you have to wait for those funds and you're in out years. Would it be possible to have the ARPA funding reflected in CIP to show that money was put forward, taxpayer money, some of it Willington's money in a roundabout way, to show positive contributions, in this case, to these fire departments from those funds. And then my third observation request, would be this discussion of Fund 17. I'm quite old myself, and been an observer of this process, and distinctly remember the chairman of the Board of Finance, then Bob Lazuski, setting up Fund 17. And I remember its purpose being exactly what Christina and Stephanie were outlining, to purchase equipment, to replace the ambulance, to replace other fire trucks, which made total sense then, and makes even more sense to me now, hearing last night that the average fire truck now costs in excess of $800,000. So I'm very concerned to hear that this would be potentially, or has been utilized, which I didn't recognize, for payroll and other operational costs. So I'm glad to see the concern on the Board of Finance on this issue. I look forward to how you're gonna address it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody with good and welfare?
Thank you, Donna, for updating that 5-year look back. I don't know if people got a chance to look at it and to sort of restart it for this budget period, because it helps us with the context a lot. I would recommend it to those who are getting used to the budgeting system, because it's kind of at a glance what people have asked for in the last 5 years, or what they were awarded and what they're asking for this year.
Thanks for including that, Donna. Appreciate it. All right, so, anybody make a motion for adjournment?
So moves.
So moved. Second. Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Well, said Eileen?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Hang on. What are you doing?
Eileen's got a question.
Hi,
This is for.
Hi.
Could you guys hold it down a
Hey,
sec?
guys.
Hold it down a sec. We're talking to our recording secretary.
I'm not familiar with a couple of the people on the board. The lady sitting next to you, Stephanie, what's her name?
Oh, this is Britt.
Britt
Rothhauser.
Britt, what's her last name?
Rothhauser, Rothhauser.
Okay.
I'm an alternate.
And,
And Melissa Miller's an alternate. Do you have her?
okay, she's on the other side?
Mhm.
She was sitting on the other side, okay.
And Jason Ross, do you know him?
What's his name?
Do you know Jason Ross?
We go way back.
Jason?
Ross,
Ross, R A
Yes,
S S.
okay, I'm sorry, I do know you, okay.
I look quite a bit different from the last time you saw me.
I remember you. Okay, I'm all set now, thank you very much.
Wow, that's all?
Thank you.
Hi, Eileen.
Night.
You're leaving.
Over
the alarm with
You and I are basically the anchors, Melissa. You and I are basically the anchors.